Good afternoon, welcome to Rundlii Gaming. So we're going to be doing another video. This will be on the expansion cities for Seven Wonders. So this won't be a full how to play video of Seven Wonders. I'll probably have a link to the previous video that I had for the Seven Wonders game base set. This is going to be strictly on the expansion of cities, kind of what it offers into the game itself, and to see whether or not this might be an expansion you want to get for the Seven Wonders game, or if you want to keep it more simple with the Seven Wonders without the expansions. But this is going to be more so just going over information of what this particular expansion will contribute to your game itself. The new decks are going to actually consist of black cards. These are going to be a little bit different than your current setup with like the... So these will give you another thing that you could build into and then offer you victory points for having like a certain number of black cards. These also will have different stats on them as far as things that they can actually do for you as well. And what we're going to do, I actually have these laid out as H1, H2, H3. And then you also get two more factions as well. One is Petra. The A side is very similar to probably like Egypt, because they do pretty much just victory points all the way across. It is 17 victory points among the three here. They start out with a brick. The other side is a 3 victory point, and then a 14 victory points, so 17 total. And then they also have this other icon here, which I'll go over what the icons do as well. Well, I guess to explain the faction, there'll be a coin, and it's like cut in half with a number 2 on it. That particular icon is to make all of your opponents, not just the people that are next to you, but every other person sitting at the table is going to lose 2 coins, because it's that coin cut in half and then there's a 2. So it means each other player, not including yourself, will have to pay 2 coins to the bank. With that added into the game, if you cannot pay coins to the bank, you actually get these what they call debt tokens. These are going to be -1 victory points, and they have a bigger token for -5. So let's say if you cannot pay 2 money to the bank, then you would get 2 of these debt tokens. If you couldn't pay 5, you'd get a bigger debt token. But it's mostly just for minus victory points at the end of the game. The other one, so the first faction, as I mentioned, was Petra. The other is Byzantine. And this one is kind of a mixture of different things, but they have a new symbol in this one as well. First, though, they have 3 victory points, 2 victory points, and then the symbol, and 7 victory points. What the symbol here is for, there is a red circle with what looks to be a dove on it. The dove symbol is for a diplomacy token. These little cardboard things you can actually put down in front of your board here if you were to get it. So let's say if I were to build this, I actually put this in front of me. Now what the diplomacy token does is whenever you're about to be attacked, what you're going to actually do is you spend this diplomacy token and you actually step out of the battle. Now, since this takes you out of the battle, you're not actually considered to be adjacent to either of those as far as military purposes go. Now, that being said, you cannot make any victories, but you also will not get any losses from doing this. So it kind of helps you with victory points as far as that goes, because you're not going to get any victory points. But at the same time, you're not going to be fighting your opponents either. So you cannot get victory points either. So let's say if I have a person to my left and a person to my right, if I spend this diplomacy token, it actually takes me out of the conflict at the end of the age and makes my left and right opponent actually fight each other instead. So it can be pretty neat, because it kind of switches the dynamic of the game a little bit. Because let's say if both of your left and right people are very militarized, you might be able to avoid one of those opponents from getting as many points as they would have otherwise. Because let's say if the person on my left has 6 military and the person on my right has 5, normally they would get victory points for beating me, but if I were to do the diplomacy, they would have to fight each other. And that could help with like strategy with that. But that also makes it to where maybe you don't have to focus on military quite as much, because you'll know you'll be getting some of the diplomacy for that. On the B side, this is going to be a little bit of victory points, 7 between the two, and then 2 diplomacy tokens. So if you want to do a lot more diplomacy, perhaps this might be a better method of doing it, is by going with the side here, because you have the possibility of 2 diplomacy tokens. Now we're going to go over the different cards in different ages here. You have like your standard victory point card. It's just 4 victory points for a wood and a gold, so not too bad. This one is 2 victory points, and then each opponent pays 1 gold. This one has an arrow on it, and then a -1 gold in the center here. And what this particular one is used for is each turn the player has a commercial rebate of 1 coin on the first resource that they buy in that particular turn. So like, if I have this to my left, it will reduce the first thing I buy from that person per turn. So this could be really useful with like the market. If you have a market, you already paid them 1 gold anyway, but this will actually reduce it by another 1, which could make it free for you. So just a neat little idea with it. You'll see this mask icon. What this actually does is it copies one of the scientific symbols of one of your neighbors. So let's say if you're going really heavily into the science field, this will give you like the ability to copy one of those that maybe your neighbor has. But if your neighbor doesn't have a science symbol, then this one's kind of dead in the water because it's not going to help you. This is also a -1. It's similar to the other card I showed you, except it's the opposite direction. Militia. Now one big difference here is this one is an age 1, but it gives you 2 military. Normally in the base set, age 1 has the 1 military stuff, age 2 has the 2 military stuff, age 3 has the 3 military stuff. So with the militia, it actually has more military than your average military card will. So it's actually pretty good as far as that goes. The costs are usually a little bit higher. The expansion mostly deals with a lot of gold. Like most of the things you buy here are going to require some amount of gold. The next one you'll see has a 1, 6, 1 gold. And what this actually represents is your 2 neighbors will get a gold each for when you play this card, and then you'll get 6 gold. So even though it helps you a lot more than, because in the base set there is a market card that gives you 5 gold in age 1. This one will give you 6 gold, but it also gives both of your neighbors 1. So this is a little more beneficial, but at the same time it also helps your neighbors out when you buy this. So there are pros and cons to doing that. The secret warehouse. The secret warehouse is, this allows you to produce a good among those that your city currently produces. So like you can produce an additional good of something you already produce. So this kind of helps out with, because for example if you produce, in this case like a stone, a brick, and a wood, you can produce 1 extra of one of those resources per round. So like you might produce 2 brick, then wood. So yeah, like 2 wood, a brick, and a stone, for example, if you had that same setup. Or you could do 2 stone, or 2 brick, or 2 wood, but you can only do 1 of those per round. So it's really good for kind of helping out without having to get a bunch more brown cards. So this is pretty beneficial as well. The last one is a diplomacy token and 1 victory point. So this just kind of gives you the ability to get additional diplomacy tokens, as I said, to take yourself out of combat. And that's what the age 1 stuff looks like. So we'll go ahead and set that aside. Now the age 2, of course, is going to get a little higher costs and different benefits, but for the most part it's about the same. Like this one's going to be more victory points than a diplomacy token. Your opponents pay 2 gold, and then you get 3 victory points. This one's 6 victory points. This one's actually a pretty unique one. This is the Architect Cabinet. This will give you 2 victory points, and it has your wonder symbol, like fully built up, and then a little circle with an X in it. What this represents is that your wonders from here on do not cost resources to build. So this can actually be a very, very useful card if your wonders require a lot of resources normally to build it. Then you have Mercenaries. This is 3 military. Again, it's 1 more than your normal for the H2, so this is a little more beneficial if you want to go the military route. You have another mask. The mask copies a scientific symbol of your neighbors. This one's 4 victory points, and then -1 gold for each victory that each of those people have. So this again will trigger on everybody that's around the table. If they have a military victory, they lose 1 gold per military victory. So this is a good way to also hurt those people that are doing really well militarily. This one is 9 gold to you, 2 gold to your people that are adjacent to you. And the last one here is the Black Market. This one has an X around the A. Pretty much what this represents is that you can get 1 resource of something that you cannot produce. So for example, if you have no means of producing wood, this will allow you to get a wood. But you cannot get an additional stone if you already produce stone. So again, that might be for a different playstyle depending on how your empire is currently set up. And then lastly, we have Age 3. You have 5 victory points, -1 for every victory. This will hurt all your neighbors again. The mask for scientific symbols. You have a diplomacy with 3 victory points. This one's 8 victory points. This one's kind of similar to the other capital from the other setup. Basically just requires a bunch of different resources, and then you can build that. Well, I think it's called the Palace in the base set. It's probably about the equivalent to a palace. Just a lot of different resources. Builders Union. This one will be 4 victory points, and then each person at the table loses 1 gold, except for the person that played it, for every wonder they have. So if you have all 3 wonders built up, this is going to make them lose 3 gold. This is kind of similar to the market card that you normally see in the base set. For every black card you have, you get 1 gold and 1 victory point. So if you have a lot of black cards built up, this can be a good source of victory points. This one is 1 victory point and 1 gold for every victory you have. So for every victory you've gotten, this will be really good for that as well. And the contingent, this is 5 military on a single card, so it's quite a bit of military, because you could just explode with so much military at one time if you were to build this. And then lastly is 4 victory points, and each other person at the table will lose 3 coins. Now, as I mentioned, with all these coin losses that you'll see, if you can't pay it, you get these minuses. So they can be very beneficial in hurting a lot of other people if they're not carrying much gold. So if they're spending a lot of their gold towards other people, a lot of these cards can be really, really painful for them. Now, lastly, they also introduce 2 new guilds as well. So for every military victory that your neighbors have, not you, but your neighbors have, you get a point. This is the Mourners Guild. So pretty much, if your 2 neighbors keep beating you really badly, this is going to be worth a lot of victory points. Potentially up to 12, so if you have no military whatsoever, and you were to play this card and both of your opponents have beaten you and their neighbors, 6 times each, then you're going to get 12 victory points max out of this. So it's a really, really powerful card if both of your neighbors are really heavily into the military. This one's worth 5 victory points, and then all other players at the table lose 3. So what you're going to see with cities especially is that there's a lot more focus on messing with everyone at the table by giving them debt, by making them pay money. So you're going to see a little bit more things going on with people at the table that could affect you other than your neighbors, because normally it's your neighbors that you have to watch out for. On this one, there's a lot more cards that people can play that hurt a lot more people at the table. So this also comes with leaders. And I'm sure I may end up butchering some of these names here, because I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce all of them. But we have Bernice. Now, whenever she were to collect a coin from anywhere, she collects an additional coin on it. Now, this is only up to 1 coin per turn, so you can't get it for like multiple instances in the same action if there's a means of doing so. But anytime you take money from the bank itself, you'll increase it by 1. So this is really good for, because this is going to be part of like the leaders expansion. Like I don't actually have the leaders currently, but this is going to be just additional abilities that different leaders have. And at some point when I do get leaders, I will probably do a separate video of how leaders plays, but there are some additional leaders because of cities. Cities actually came out before the leaders expansion, so I'm mostly just kind of going over a little bit of what the leaders themselves here do. This is going to be kind of similar. This is Caligula. Caligula, he costs 3 gold. The Berenice, the one that I spoke about before, costs 2 gold. But Caligula costs 3. And his is similar to Zeus's, if you remember the base faction for Zeus, where during each age you can buy 1 black card without paying its resources. So this will be really good if you're wanting to go the black card route. The next one is Diocletian. I probably butchered that pretty bad. So from the moment this enters play, earn 2 coins for each black card that the player builds. So for every black card that the player builds, they will get 2 coins for that. The next one is Darius. Darius costs 4 gold. He'll give you 1 victory point for each black card you have. The last one is kind of a neat one for the leaders. And this is Semiramis, I suppose. For every -1 victory you have, so anytime your opponents beat you, you'll get the -1 victory point. You get an additional military. So if your neighbors keep pummeling you really, really badly with this particular leader, you'll actually get more powerful. So the more they build up and pummel you, the more militarily powerful you'll become. So this is kind of a neat leader himself, because like by later on, this might actually be very, very powerful. And the next one is Aspasia. She is worth 2 victory points and a diplomacy token. So having her will give you those. And that's pretty much what comes with the expansion for cities. And as I said, it is there's a little bit more messing with each other when you're playing cities, because there's a lot more cards that can actually influence all the other people at the table, not just your 2 neighbors. Because normally the base set itself comes with mostly stuff that interacts with you and what your neighbors can and cannot do. This one actually does affect a lot more people at the table as far as what it can hurt in the game as well. So it's definitely an interesting thing if you want to add like another layer to Seven Wonders, and without being overly complicated. I mean, it's still a very simplistic game. It's just kind of more of the same as far as like building stuff up, still the card draft, and there's a lot of different ways you can play this still. But it does add quite a bit more to the dynamic of different things you can do within the game as well. So I do hope you've enjoyed watching. Definitely watch for future videos. I should have some more in the near future as well. Either talk about brand new games, or I may talk about a few more expansions, depending on which games I decide to do videos on. So definitely watch for them. Definitely like and subscribe. Like, subscribe, and comment on this video. If anything you might have seen that I either did incorrectly, or anything that you might want to see in the videos in the future. So thank you for watching Rundlii Gaming, and you have a good day.